Billy, thank you so
Yes.
much for joining me. My name's Mauricio Alvarado. I'm working
Hi.
with Jane Fleischer Reed. Jane is the granddaughter of the man you see before you, Max Fleischer. Um,
Uh-huh.
her her dad is Richard Fleischer, the director of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Soylent
Wow.
Green. If you recall that film, Soylent Green.
Oh, of course, of
Um,
course. Yeah.
so uh, Me and her have been on this mission to basically restore, preserve, screen, celebrate the work of her grandfather Max Fleischer.
hmm
For the last, you know, couple of years, we've been slowly reaching out to archives, reaching out to studios, and slowly we've been gathering up all these amazing films. Stuff including Coco the Clown, Betty
hmm
Boop, the talk cartoons, the early Bimbo stuff, and it's been absolutely fascinating. I just turned 33. I'm a kid from the 90s. I'm sure you encounter a lot of, kids my age, and my generation grew up watching these cartoons through the old public domain cassettes. Back in the day, our
Right.
parents would buy these, you know, 50 cartoons in one. If you see the cover, they would have really wacky versions of Bugs Bunny and Betty Boop and Superman, Casper.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
all these cartoons, even through these old, ugly, faded prints, these cartoons have been embedded into our minds as I've been slowly, putting out clips on social media, which is how we got connected. I've been getting a lot of
Right.
comments of my memory has been unlocked. You've unlocked a memory. I haven't seen this in so long, and it just shows me that this stuff is still deep in the public's mind. And I'm curious. You're from a different generation, and I'm curious. How did you grow up watching the Max Fleischer? How did you get introduced to the Max Fleischer cartoons?
Um, I grew up in the 50s, and I think my awareness of those cartoons happened really early. I think it might have been like 1958 or 59. They used to show them, and the people they used to show them from Canada. There was a TV station in Canada that used to play them. But the thing is they were prints of other prints, and they were missing so many generations that it was tough to watch them, but you could hear them. And what I heard, I loved, and that was my introduction to the Popeye cartoons. The real early ones, the ones with Billy Costello. Um, those were the ones I remember the most. And I never saw a good print of them almost ever. So
And the funny thing about the Fleischer cartoon specifically, um, it feels like when television was just starting, the Popeye ones were really getting a lot of kids excited. There were mostly a lot of, from what I understand, shows that would have sort of a guy in between, kind of a host of these
yes,
cartoons.
yes.
Was there a show like that that you grew up watching? Who was that host for you growing up?
um, there was a host I particularly remember from Canada. His name was Poop Deck Paul, and they had a series of hosts on Channel 9 from Windsor, Canada. And one guy was Poop Deck Paul, another guy was Captain Jolly, and then there was Larry Booth and Jerry Sands. I think they were a couple of disc jockeys that did characters for television to present cartoons. And the show was called Jingles, but they used to show a lot of the Popeye cartoons, and then they would do like interstitial programming, as themselves presenting. And
What I'm putting on screen now are actual cells from the original Popeye cartoons. Now, this stuff,
well,
is so rare. Once in a while, you can see some backgrounds being put up for sale. My personal favorite cartoon is Sinbad, not Sinbad, Alibaba. Popeye meets Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
Right.
What are some of your favorite Popeye cartoons? What are some of your standout Popeye cartoons that you loved growing up watching?
I think, oh gosh, I liked, I liked the one where there was just so much detail in it. There was it was like a construction site, and Olive Oil was hypnotized, and she went sleepwalking, and she wound up on these high floors of girders and panel, construction site, and Papa had to go up there and try to save her, and it was harrowing. I remember being like off kilter as a kid, going, "Yipes! I'd hate to be up there."
That one is a dream walking, which yeah, Olive has a you know she has a she dream she what is it sleepwalks, goes into a construction site, and then Bluto and Popeye go after her. It's amazing. What I have on screen is Jack Mercer and Mae Questel.
Yes, I
Um,
love that photo.
did you ever meet Jack Mercer or Mae Questel back in the day?
No, I never met Jack and I never met May, but I did meet and work with Jackson Beck.
And for people that don't know, that's the later Bluto, a voice.
Yes, the World War II uh, version of Bluto.
Now,
But Jackson Beck was an amazing guy. He was primarily an announcer, but he used to play characters in radio when radio was the only thing that you could get entertainment from besides the movies. Um, and he was all over these shows on the radio back in the 30s and 40s, and I met him in the early 90s in New York. He was still working and still doing commercials, and we did a commercial together. It was a fruit roll-ups commercial, and he did the announcer, but it was featuring the Nickelodeon characters in it. It was a cross promotion, and I mean, I used to run into him at auditions, and I just every time I saw him, I wanted to ask him everything, you know.
now, do you know who Gus Wiki is?
Yes, yes, I do. He was the original Bluto
Have you ever
in the
seen?
Popeye cartoons.
Have you ever seen a photo of him before?
I think I saw one photo of him. Um, I used to think he was like I thought he was a black actor. When I heard him, I said that sounds like a sound that some of the black actors like Paul Robeson and but I was wrong.
Now, here for the audience that doesn't, that wants a little reminder. Gus Wiki is the voice that you hear in the three color Fleischer cartoons. Sinbad. He's that deep voice that I just absolutely love. This the scene
You
that
are
I
now
have
a chicken. A chicken.
the one scene that I absolutely adore is in Alibaba when he's just eating, and then there's Wimpy chained up,
Mm-hmm.
and then the and he's going in the beat.
Yes.
That one is just the best because he's actually eating with the beat of the music, which is amazing. Because if people don't know, they would actually record the cartoons to the music first, and then the voice actors would do the voices afterwards. That's how
Yeah.
Jack Mercer would do the stuff underneath.
I'd be amazed at that. I used to say, how hard must have that have been to do? to like perform in real time with an orchestra going on behind you.
So I want to show people, and I want to show you, Billy, because this is when I first saw Gus Wiki. I was like, wow, that's Bluto. That's where this voice is coming from. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Gus Wiki.
Oh my God.
And
Gus Wiki.
he even went around as Gus Popeye Wiki.
Really?
You see down there
Why
on the
he wanted to let everybody know that he was in
yeah,
the cartoons.
you see right there in the bottom, because this is his Christmas
Yep.
card.
Wow.
And here
Merry
is
Christmas. Oh, oh. Moo. Look at that guy. He dresses like Spike Jones.
isn't that great?
That's so funny with the
See,
bowler
he's
hat
great.
on and everything.
So that's Gus Wiki, the voice of Bluto. But
Oh,
the cartoon, the cartoon though that we got connected with, that we is Swing You Sinners, which is, I don't think that was, maybe I'm wrong. It might have been part of the TV package back in the day, but Swing You Sinners is one of those Fleischer cartoons that's so dark and fun, but I just don't see it being on television. How did when did you watch Swing You Sinners? How did you get connected with that specific cartoon?
I don't remember. I don't remember. And I don't specifically remember when I saw it. Um, Whether I saw it as a very young child. Um, I know that the owned and operated stations, that were independent of networks and stuff, they had to fill their hours with programming that was not supplied by a network. So they were showing everything and anything they had. Um, Old films, the Universal Monsters pictures, um, film noir, just anything to fill the time for content. And I think I saw it. I know that I loved it. And I Betty Boop stuff I saw.
And what I'm putting on screen are original background paintings from these cartoons. This one specifically is from Betty in Blunderland, where it's the Alice in Wonderland kind of parody. And what I love as we're going through these cartoons is, you notice the Fleischers did it first. They're the ones who put her in Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
They did the first sound cartoons, which was really amazing. I think
Yes.
that's the one thing that's really important to me and to Jane, and the family as well, is that we want to make sure that people know and appreciate the legacy of Max Fleischer and the people, involved in these wonderful works. What's really funny is the reason there's kind of been a renewed interest. Do you recall the Snow White cartoon with Cab Calloway, and it's got Coco the Clown, and then he turns into a ghost, and it's got Betty
I think I
in a
do. I think I
casket?
remember that.
So in that sequence, they rotoscoped Cab Calloway. It's got Coco, he's dancing, and then it turns into the ghost, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
really amazing scene. And because the dance moves and the rhythm of that whole scene just so groovy, a
Yep.
rapper, a fan of a rapper used his song and put that video together, like this little edit, and kids
Mm-hmm.
have been just going crazy for it. They've been tattooing Coco, tattooing the ghost, tattooing Cab Calloway, just getting this renewed interest in the cartoons. And I
Wow.
jumped I jumped on it. I was like, wait, who is this clown? Where are these cartoons at? And that's one of the reasons why I've been just really thrilled and excited, because it opens up my eyes to these cartoons. The Coco the Clown cartoons, my God, are mind blowing. They're just amazing cartoons. Max Fleischer, just it really just shows you how much of a genius this man was, and the whole studio.
Oh, total genius. And I know that some of the most highly stylized cartoons of the Fleischers that I remember watching, I would look and I'd see for the animation, it would be two names. It'd be like Dave Fleischer and somebody else, like Orestes. I forget the guy's last name.
And check this out. This is in front of Paramount. This is Dave Fleischer
Wow.
with a Gulliver and a Popeye.
Wow.
Um, isn't that great?
That is great.
And for people
Wow. I
that
didn't
don't
know
know,
Dave Fleischer was so dapper. I thought they were like these young New York guys, you know?
in the 40s actually is when they moved to Florida, and then
Right.
the cartoons started to be more clean. Popeye wouldn't be as gritty. That's when they did
Right.
Gulliver and Mr. Bug. So I think that's that era, early
I see.
40s. But the reason we're here though is, I want to show you some great Fleischer cartoons. Um,
Hmm.
I'm curious though, do you know how a Fleischer cartoon is made? Have you ever seen how a Popeye cartoon is made?
I never, I never have. I don't believe they ever had behind the scenes stuff available for the public to watch.
What if I told you that I have behind the scenes footage of how a Popeye cartoon is made? Would you like to see that?
Wow. I'd love it.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that. If you want to comment on
Okay.
it, go ahead. If you don't, that's fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and show that for you because this is just amazing. This
All
is
right.
so I'm gonna go ahead and play that for you.
Miami, Florida, home of the Fleischer Studios, where the latest scientific developments are employed in the art of motion picture cartooning. Leading experts are gathered in production conference on the famous cartoon Popeye the Sailor Man. Hundreds of drawings comprising the results of their deliberations are arranged upon surrounding walls. The pictures representing highlights in the story's development are shifted around as department heads plan or change details of production. Known as idea or key drawings, they are given to a group of artists called animators. The animators further develop the idea by making additional sketches, each one of which bears a slight change in picture alignment and figure contour in order to depict a degree of progressed action. As there are hundreds of pictures to be animated, the routine drawings in between the key pictures are filled in by other artists who are called in-betweeners. If you've ever flipped the pages of a pad of pictures drawn in sequence, you have no doubt observed how the action creates the illusion of motion. From the in-betweeners, the pencil drawings pass on to the cartoon inkers. The inkers trace the sketches on squares of celluloid. For short, they are called cells. They provide the characters with an invisible support and facilitate their arrangement with other figures as well as backgrounds. The ink drawings are then filled in with color. At the stockroom counter, painters or fillers in replenish their ever-dwindling color supplies. Great care must be exercised by the paint mixers. As a large group of painters are currently working with the same colors, the shades that all are using must match perfectly. Any variance in color will be noticeable on the screen. In filling in the outlines, the figures are reversed as the paint is applied, so the cells, when placed before the camera to be photographed, will present a smooth, glossy surface with no suggestion of paint or brush lines. Now the characters must be provided with a fitting environment. In this department, settings are designed and decorated by artists whose work is just as important and perhaps more complicated than figure animation. It also entails a similar degree of repetition. These artists supply landscapes, street scenes, buildings, exteriors and interiors, as well as furnishings. They must be adept at creating the illusions of wind-blown clouds, waving palm trees, rolling seas, moving vehicles, and other effects that suggest activity. The character drawings are used to aid them in obtaining proper figure placement in relation to backgrounds. Also to aid in creating perspective and scene composition when the celluloids are assembled before the camera. For instance, Popeye's girlfriend, Olive Oil, must appear in normal relation to her patio doorway. And it would never do to let Popeye miss the rug when he bends his painted knee in ardent admiration. Many cells or pictures are required to complete this action. Now the thousands of celluloids bearing figures and backgrounds go into the long routine photographic process. All departments of the studio are supervised by Max Fleischer, veteran cartoonist. In bringing the spinach-inspired seagoing strongman to the screen, he is known as Popeye's Filmland Papa. One at a time, each drawing is placed in a holder, and a single exposure is made on film. Upon this new apparatus, actual scenes are constructed to convey the idea of depth and to permit the movement of backgrounds. For instance, many drawings of this bird must be photographed, each one with the wings and other lines of body contour in slightly changed positions. Also, with each exposure, the background is moved to create the illusion of flight. The process must be repeated many times with all characters and accessories that simulate motion. When it is realized that hundreds of sheets of celluloid, each bearing characters, properties, or scenic effects, must be superimposed one over the other so that figures will pass and repass each other in photographic action, thousands of exposures become necessary to complete the entire motion picture. The production of film cartoons is long on routine and heavy with detail and requires considerable special equipment. The groups of pictures for each exposure are held in place by chromium register pins, and the holder is adjusted to the camera by heavy iron arms that lock in mesh. Beginning with one sustained picture, note how this series of pictures flashed on the screen up to the rate of 24 per second speeds the action. The eye retains the image of one until another appears, creating the illusion of motion pictures. Finally, the picture goes into the cutting room, where the film is cut into scenes and edited. Voices are then recorded on the film, and department heads put Popeye through a preview.
Princess, wouldst it please thee? Or, wouldst it please thou? What are you, a thee or a thou? Fairest one, I was about to say is that...
Yes, I'll marry you.
Oh, you will? Oh, she's gonna marry me. Oh, it's wonderful. I think she's making a big mistake, but I don't know. Oh, I go. Bring me friends to the wedding, but I shall return.
Oh, don't forget to come back.
Heidi ho, Silver. Away.
Oh, dear.
Thus, through popular science and out of the inkwell illusion becomes fantastic screen entertainment.
Isn't that
Wow.
wild?
That's fabulous. One of the things I noticed as they got into it, to set the mood musically, I love the orchestrated version of Popeye the Sailor, the theme, but they played it almost very sentimentally.
Yeah, that's great, you know. And that was part of a series called Popular Science that kind of went behind
I remember
the scenes.
Popular Science. Popular Science. And they always had an announcer that sounded like this.
But to
I
see
remember
those sets, those 3D background sets, even in those, bad prints, you can
Yes.
still notice how gorgeous that is. And yeah, they
It
were the
was
first
gorgeous.
to do that.
I liked that it was colorized. It seemed to be colorized very lovingly. But the workers, all those artists and everything, I mean, it's quite an amazing thing. It's such tedium compared to by today's standards, nobody would put themselves through that type of thing. Everything is digital. Everything is kind of done by machine. But that was really impressive. And it sounded, I couldn't tell if that was Bill Costello or Jack Mercer. It might have been Jack Mercer really early on, but I know that that was Marjorie Hines as Olive Oyl. That was not Mae Questel.
Yeah, that was a Jack Mercer as Popeye on that
Okay,
one.
but it was Marjorie Hines who Jack Mercer was married to for a very, very short time. And then after that, he didn't want to talk about her.
The one cartoon so that I really am excited to show you though is Swing You Sinners. And this was an early, it's funny that we showed a kind of the later process of how the Fleischers used to work in the in Miami. But this cartoon came out in September 24th, 1930. So this is an early talk cartoon. And from what I understand, this is, you know, the cartoon was animated by a completely new staff who had never worked in animation before. So Max
Wow.
was just, hiring people, who didn't have any experience or something. And,
Wow.
but if people have not seen this cartoon, I mean, how would you describe it? how would you tell somebody about this cartoon?
Um, it was it was meant to scare. It was like to scare you into not committing crime or doing a sin because of what you would face afterwards. And it's almost like the netherworld rose up and terrorized the little character. Guilt.
What I'm showing is a photo of that Fleischer building where they would work at, which is
That's
hard to
right in Times
imagine.
Square. That building.
Yeah.
I've been in that building.
Here's another
Wow.
photo of it.
Yeah, I think they tore that building down, but I might have been in there before they tore it down. I went for an audition or whatever was 1600 Broadway. I did go in, but I don't know if it was that building. They may have torn it down and rebuilt another building there. Times Square. Boy, I know it well.
And yeah, that's where this grittiness came from these Fleischer cartoons, which it just gives it this awesome edge to it. I mean, all respect to Disney, but the Fleischer cartoons, man, they're just more fun, innovative,
Yep.
psychedelic.
Yeah, and they were of the jazz age. And they gyrated, they pulsated. There was life going on all the time.
I think that why it's still resonating now with these kids, where they just like are totally loving because that vibe, that spirit is just, it's continuing. People just love it.
Yes,
And funny, just I think you mentioned this couple earlier.
yes,
Is this Margie and Jack?
yeah. That's Marjorie Hines, and that's definitely Jack, and that's Pinto Colvig, who was a real screwball, from what I understand. He made all kinds of noises, but they look like they're having a blast. It's
And
funny
real
that
quick,
Jack Mercer looks in that picture. He looks a little like a young Robin Williams.
I wonder if Robin consulted with Jack, because that film, as a Fleischer fan, I'm so confused by it. What did you think of that film when it came out as a fan?
I thought it was a really odd take on Popeye, but it didn't follow any of the oh God, I don't know, uh, the constructs of filmmaking, regular filmmaking. I mean, they veered off, and it was filmed very strange. I mean, for a musical.
So I'm gonna go ahead then and play Soon You Sinners, which is an amazing cartoon, and I want to give a shout out to Jack Theakston, um, Thad Komorowski, who restored this cartoon. Um, and yeah, it just looks amazing, and I'm super excited to show you, Billy. So,
Oh, I'm
I'm gonna go.
excited.
So here is Swing You Sinners, a new restoration, and thank you to Paramount for giving us access to the scan.
Wow.
stand up, you sinner. We got you at last. You can't get away, there's no time to play. Your finish is going to be fast. Brothers and sisters, come on, get hot. We'll amputate your bododio and tie your bones in a knot. Did it down. Did it down. Did it down. Bip it up, did it down. Brother, you sure gonna get your face lifted and a permanent shave. Ha, ha, Where you want your body sent? Body? Huh? Ain't gonna be nobody. Ha, ha, ha. You can't make any excuse. Go loom, well you loom, till we pick up you. Swing you sinner, for making chickens elope. You're at the end of your rope, so just give up all hope. Swing you sinner. We'll stretch you like a giraffe, maybe what you would have. Just give us a laugh. Swing you sinner.
Fantastic.
So
How
that's
fantastic.
um so yeah, shouts out, you know. A lot of people worked
Yep.
on getting this out. It's one of the first cartoons we just had to, you know what I mean? This is one of those cartoons that you just show someone and you show them what Fleischer's, what makes them special. They're just goth before goth, you know what I mean? They're just, Tim
There's
Burton.
so much going on. There's so much going on every second. I mean, everything is animated, including the walls of buildings and the floors, and everything was pulsating, and everything had some kind of human characteristic, even if it was an inanimate object. It might open a mouth. A wall just opens up a mouth and ingests something. I mean, it's so imaginative.
What's funny to me is looking at these photos of the studio, guys. They look so
Yes.
proper, Max is such a proper man, and these men, and yet these cartoons are so out of this world. It's like, wow, what were they smoking, Everybody's always asking that.
I think they were young. They were living in the jazz age. They probably came to New York out of Brooklyn, and primarily Jewish neighborhoods. And there's a lot of little things in the cartoon, like the apparition that comes up and sort of looks like a pawnbroker and says to the character, "You needed it." I mean, that's a Yiddishism.
It's just so wonderful to see this stuff. And this last weekend, do you recall the famous monster Movie Monster magazine, Famous Monster magazine?
Yes,
Back-
I used to collect that as a kid. I had several issues of it, and I would beg, borrow, steal to get a copy of that magazine when I was a kid.
They had a film festival at the Chinese Theater, and we got connected with them, and we managed to play a Fleischer cartoon before each one of the films. So they played Phantom of the Opera, the Lon Chaney version, Hunchback,
Yeah.
Dracula, all the classics, all the Universal stuff.
Wow.
And that to see the Fleischer cartoons on the big screen was such a thrill for me. I keep hearing you haven't lived until you've seen a Fleischer cartoon with an audience, and wow, they were right, because to see, these 40, 50-year-old cholo foos, from East LA going crazy for Popeye, singing along to the
Yes.
theme. It's
Oh,
just
sure.
amazing.
Yeah, it's a celebration. That's what those cartoons were. They were celebratory.
So, Billy, thank you again. Our mission
Thank
continues
you.
on. We're going to keep getting these cartoons out. We're going to keep restoring them. I'm really looking forward, like I said, to the early talk cartoons, when we get Betty when she was a dog. Those are the really
Yep.
great ones, the really juicy ones, and the really
Yep.
fun ones. And
And there was
slowly...
Felix.
Oh, the Felix cartoons, actually. A guy named Steve Stanchfield, he was working on some of those, and those are... Oh, man, those early... Pat Sullivan ones are such a trip. Oh my God, I'm just...
Yeah. They were a trip. It just took everybody on a real adventure.
But yeah, slowly we've been getting a lot of stuff restored. The same guy, Steve Stanchfield, with his company Thunderbean, he's gonna put out the Flip the Frog cartoons, which were Ub Iwerks, the guy who created Mickey Mouse. He went on
Yep.
to MGM, did Willy Whopper, Flip the Frog.
Yep.
His granddaughter, actually, Leslie Iwerks, works for Disney. She did all those great documentaries on the theme park, and those
Wow.
cartoons are gems as well. Those Flip the Frogs that were with MGM, they're just wonderful to see. But it's just
Sure.
amazing to see this renewed interest from a younger audience. I think now they're realizing just how wonderful these cartoons were in the 30s, the 20s.
Yeah.
But yeah, Billy, we're gonna
Well, they
keep on
beat the
doing screen.
pants. They beat the pants off of Disney and Warner Brothers. I think the closest Warner Brothers came to one of those Fleischer showpieces is Porky and Wacky Land.
Oh yeah, the Bob Clampett stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, we're gonna keep our mission going. We'll keep you in the loop, Billy. As we get all
Thank
these
you.
cartoons out, I'd love to see you, get your reaction to this stuff. But thank you again, Billy. I can't thank you enough. And
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for showing me this stuff. This is good for the soul.
appreciate you, Billy. Let's stay in touch, and you have a good night. Thank you again.
All right, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.